I'm Mary Beth Finnerty, class of 1985 from Siena, Director of Alumni Relations, and your host for today's Saints and Alumni show on WVCR 88.3 The Saint. Join us today as we hear from Melissa Goetz, class of 2004, and her very inspirational story on her work on behalf of rare diseases. Join us for this and more on WVCR 88.3 The Saint. Hi, everybody. I'm Mary Beth Finnerty, class of 85 here at Siena College, Director of Alumni Relations, and I'm your host for today's Saints and Alumni show here on WVCR 88.3 The Saint. I'm so excited to have with me as our guest today, Melissa Goetz, class of 2004. Welcome, Melissa.
Hi, thank you so much for having me here.
It's great to be with you. I know we have a lot to talk about, so I'm going to jump right in. Melissa, just to give a little bit of an intro for our listeners, your husband is Steve. He's your classmate.
Yes. Yep.
You are a great Siena family, 3 great kids. And I always love to ask folks how they met their partner, if they're Siena sweethearts. So tell us.
Oh, yeah. Steve and I met in a freshman class, our first semester. We met in Intro to Psychology. And we were in class together, and we had another mutual friend who was in class together, and we just started studying together, and then started hanging out, not studying, and spending time together, and that was it.
The rest is history.
The rest is history.
Right?
We got married at Siena in 2006. We got married right in the chapel, and it was great. So now we have 3 little saints that we're raising.
Little saints, hopefully.
Yes.
Maybe someday to be.
Oh, I plant the seed.
Saints.
Yes.
Plant the seed.
I plant the seed regularly. I ask them. I'm like, which one of you is going to go to Siena, or all 3 of you? But
preferably all 3.
Preferably all 3 of you, but at least one of you. So figure it out.
Melissa, we didn't have the opportunity to meet until after you had graduated when I started working at Siena, but I know you were very involved as a student in Senate and other things. So tell us a little bit about your overall Siena experience and maybe some, what things stand out as highlights now as you look back a few years out.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved campus just the second I got here, for my campus tour. I loved the size. I loved the feel of it. You just got like a good feel when you were on campus. I was a psychology major and a sociology minor. And I met my roommate at orientation. We connected immediately. And she is still one of my best friends, the godmother of our youngest child. And then I just got involved. I did get involved with Senate, but that wasn't until my senior year, and just met some really great people that way and loved being part of the community. I worked in campus programs, which was really great and a great way to be connected with what was going on campus. And I just loved kind of meeting new people and being part of whatever was happening on campus.
That's great. And you certainly continue to stay involved in that way and have been a great volunteer for us in Alumni Relations as News Notes Coordinator and Reunion Committee. So we thank you for that very much. So you're a busy woman with raising your family. You're back in school, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and then work with the foundation you started. But so let's just go back a little bit leading up to where you are currently and share a little bit about your career path with your psychology degree and where it's led you to what you're doing now.
Sure. Yeah. After I graduated, I went to Fordham University and got my master's in counseling and knew I wanted to be in the mental health field or, I really enjoyed my time at Siena working in campus programs and being in higher ed. So I was trying to figure out which kind of direction I wanted to go in. And after I graduated, I got a job at RPI in student activities and worked in student life for 7 years while I was there. And that was great, and I enjoyed it, and I just loved working with the students and that student leadership aspect of things. I left after I had my second daughter, my middle child, who was diagnosed with a rare disease at the time, and just decided to spend some time at home raising my family. So that's kind of what it looked like post college.
And share really exciting and a big endeavor that you're currently involved in with getting your licensed mental health certification, if you would.
Yes, that has always been the goal. I've, even when I was a student here, I knew, like I said, like I wanted to go into mental health, and that was the goal of my master's degree. And then decided to take the route going into higher ed, and finally decided to pull a trigger and just commit and finish up I needed an additional 12 credits and internship. So I decided in September, I did all the applying and everything before COVID, and I'm glad I did not have a crystal ball, because I think I probably would have talked myself out of it again if I had known what the world would have looked like. But I started in September, and I'm finishing up my coursework, and I'm in an internship currently at St. Catherine's Center for Children, and I should be done next May, I'm hoping, and at that point I'll be able to apply for licensure in New York State as a mental health counselor, and I'm very excited about that, and very proud that I finally kind of went for it and decided, no more excuses, and just to go for it.
That's wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Share some of your tips for juggling, family.
It's so funny because
School.
right before I got here, I was messaging a friend of mine, and I was like, I don't think I know how to juggle all of this. I think having a good support network of family and friends who support you in your endeavors is really important, because they understand that things are important, and they're willing to step in and help. And I think, and whether it's help with childcare or it's just moral support and encouragement, I think, surrounding yourself with people who really believe in your goals and who are going to support you when you're telling yourself, that it's too hard and you can't do it, is really important. And then, more practically, I make a lot of lists. And I have a schedule, and, I start my day and I know exactly, what I want my day to look like. And then I give myself some grace when it doesn't go that way, because inevitably there are days that it doesn't. So, a little sense of humor and some grace to roll with the punches.
I love that. Grace is such a good concept. And, more than ever, we need good clinicians and support systems for mental health with all the needs leading into the pandemic, but it's certainly coming out of it.
Yes, it has had a big impact on, I work primarily with children, but you can see the impact that it's had on, our kids. And we say that kids are resilient, and they definitely are, but they still need help processing sort of what's been happening and why life, some of them don't know a life different than COVID, and now things are opening back up again, and there's more socializing, and there's more going out, and there's more exposure to things. So really providing support for each other and for our children too is important.
Yeah, I love that, and very much in line with the Siena values, right?
Yes. Yep. Yes.
Continuing the theme of psychology, what stands out, any of your professors that you had that were influential in continuing on that path?
I had a few classes that I took with Dr. Maroney, I believe his name was. And there was another professor, I'm not going to remember her last name. Her first name was Betty. I can't remember her last name. It was just such a practical approach to, practicing and the experience of psychology and what it meant for people and how we perceived the world. So open-minded, which I really appreciated, and allows you to really consider, along with the Siena, culture, just to really experience things from other perspectives and points of view. And, we all have a story, and that impacts how we experience our life. So just keeping with that, I feel like I experienced that in all of my classes.
I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the work really important work that you've done in establishing the FCS Foundation when your daughter was diagnosed with a rare disease.
Yeah, that was pretty life-changing. The term rare disease was not something that was in my vocabulary until January of 2013. So we had our son, Christopher, and then we had Juliana was born, and it was like a totally normal pregnancy and birth, and everything was really great. And Steve and I were feeling pretty cocky because we felt like, look at us, we got 2 kids, and we're doing this, and we're great. We haven't missed a beat. And then she got really sick, and we were in the hospital, and they drew her blood, and it was this milky pink, like Pepto-Bismol strawberry milkshake color. And her triglycerides were about 24,000, which normal is about even 500 is high. So they asked us if we had a history of high triglycerides in our family, which we didn't. We were really at a loss. And thankfully, the staff at Albany met her really great, and they were able to pretty quickly diagnose her with familial chylomicronemia syndrome, which is FCS. And essentially, her body cannot metabolize fat. So her triglycerides just build up in her bloodstream and result in that milky, essentially her blood is more fat than it was blood at that time. And she had pancreatitis, a liver infection, and a kidney infection.
Scary.
It was terrifying. It was really scary. I think that was my first real thrust into advocacy and figuring out, that I had to fight for her. I had to fight for the tests I wanted her to have. I had to fight for the tests I didn't want her to have. There was just so much going on. And I just recently found a notebook from that time where I was, writing down all the things doctors were saying. And none of it made sense. We didn't understand any of it. So, just thrusting yourself into education and trying to learn as much as you can. And at the time, there was nothing. You go right to the internet, right? And there was nothing. And I couldn't find a single story. I couldn't find her disease, really. There were medical journals. I didn't understand what I was reading. All I knew was that she had to be on a really low-fat diet, which is about 15 grams of fat. And I say, a tablespoon of olive oil is 12 grams of fat. So, which is a pretty typical swirl of the pan of olive oil. So we have a pretty strictly lean diet for her. Yes. And it was a pretty scary time, pretty isolating. And, we just kind of did what we could do day to day.
How old was she when she was diagnosed?
She was about 7 weeks old when she was diagnosed.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah, wow. So she was just a baby. My son at the time was about 2.5. So it was a crazy time. Yeah.
And how's she doing now? I had the great chance to meet her a few weeks ago at yoga class, which was great.
She came to yoga on the lawn at Siena, which was so great. And she is enthusiastic. I practice yoga a lot, and so she's always eager to join me. So it was fun to bring her here. She's doing great. She, to see her, she is an active, thriving, typical 8-year-old girl, who begs me for a TikTok account and, is into all the things that 8-year-old girls are into. So she's doing well. Yeah.
It's so great to hear. Melissa, if you can stick around for a little bit more, I'd love to have you share about the work that the foundation is doing, but we need to just take a quick break.
Great. Thank you.
So we'll be back in a moment.
Sounds good.
Here on WVCR 88.3 The Saint. Welcome back. I'm Mary Beth Finnerty, your guest host today on Saints and Alumni Show here on 88.3 WVCR The Saint. And I'm here with Melissa Goetz, our very own alumna from the class of 2004. Melissa, thank you so much for sharing your story and what that was like for you with finding out that your young infant daughter had a rare disease. You've done so much great work going through that experience to start a foundation to support others. Could you share what that was like and what the work that you've done?
Yes. So in November of 16, I was invited to attend a patient meeting out in Boston, which I thought at first was a scam. I'm going to be totally honest with you, because this rare disease, like I said, there was nothing out there. And so to get a call that said, we want you to come share your story and meet other people with the disease, I thought, no, they don't. They want my credit card information and my social security number. So I was very skeptical about it, which is funny, in hindsight. But I went to Boston, which was very unlike me to do something like that. And I walked into a room with a bunch of people I did not know. And one of those people in the room was Lindsay Sutton, who is my co-president now. And we met, and it was like we had known each other our entire lives. So she was diagnosed with FCS, very similar story to Juliana. She was an infant. She's from California, and she's lived there her whole life. But we met, and we connected, and we realized how important that connection was to know someone. It was actually the first time she had met anyone who had the disease. Even though she didn't meet Juliana at the time, there were some other people there that she met. And that experience, that camaraderie and that support is so important. for people to have. And we realized that was really missing for our rare disease group. So about 3 or 4 months after we met, she emailed me and she said, "What do you think about starting a foundation with me and doing a nonprofit?" She's like, "I don't want to do it by myself." She goes, "I think we could do it together." Neither of us had any background in any of this, and filing for a nonprofit, in running a board. We did not know what we were doing. It was the blind leading the blind, but we went for it. And in, let's think, September of 2016, we got our paperwork from the state of California that we were a registered nonprofit, and the rest is history. So it was pretty wild ride since then. We've just been focused on finding patients. We think it's underdiagnosed. Right now, it's super rare. It's 1 in a million, they say.
Wow.
So I didn't mention that earlier. Yeah, so it's a super rare disease. They call it ultra rare. And we just want to find patients. We think it's underdiagnosed. It presents with really high triglycerides that don't respond to typical lipid-lowering medications. So right now there is no treatment. And we just want to find patients. We want to educate clinicians. We want to encourage research. And we just want to get the word out there about this rare disease.
That's amazing. 1 in a million, literally 1 in a million.
Literally 1 in a million, yes. And I tell her all the time, she is 1 in a million.
What an empowering statement, though, to make.
Yeah.
What are some, I'm sure there's highs and lows in as far as certainly in going through the process as parents, but in the foundation. And I know that last year you had virtual 5K as a fundraiser that was very successful.
Yes, inspired by Siena College's own virtual 5K.
Are you doing that again this year?
We are, yeah. It was a big success. And it was a really cool way, because there's no real pocket of people with the disease anywhere. You know, we're spread out all over the place. It was really a cool way to see where people were. I mean, I think we had people from like 16 or 17 states who were participating. And we had some people who were over in the UK who participated. So it was a really cool way to bring us together, even, you know, aside from COVID, just because we are so spread out and we haven't all met each other. It was a really cool thing to do.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
What stands out with some of your successes with the foundation? I know you've had some high-level meetings and things like that.
Yeah, we, you know, there are highs as simple as, you know, getting an email from a patient and being able to connect them with another patient or a physician in their area. That is so satisfying because people can really be at a loss to find help and someone who understands their disease. So that simple connection can be really meaningful. Being able to provide recipe ideas for people, to encourage them to try their favorite meals that they might have had before their diagnosis. You know, some people aren't diagnosed until they're adults. So that can be even more challenging because you've had a lifetime of eating habits and now you have to change them. And so just giving people the inspiration that they can manage the disease and still eat good food and socialize and have fun. But then, you know, in a larger scale, you know, we put forward the Heart Act along with Congressman Tonko, who I'm a constituent of. And that's been a really big deal. We had a drug that was not approved through the FDA, and it was heartbreaking. It really was a grieving process when that drug was not approved. And again, very unlike me, I went on my computer, but I think this is a testament to just how heartbroken we were. I sent Congressman Tonko an email through his website, and I just said, here's the story and here's what's going on, and I'm at a loss and I don't know what to do for my daughter or my community. And he called me back. I had a message from him.
That's amazing.
And, you know, from there, it kept moving forward and working alongside Lindsay and some help. We had a bunch of meetings down on the Hill, and we just advocated not just for our rare disease, but we realized that there was a system within the FDA drug approval process that could be better. And we appreciate the work that the FDA does, and we want this to be the beginning of a very long relationship that we have with them, working on drug approvals. But we just felt like there were some things they could do specifically for the rare disease community that could really help the process and really help them understand the drugs that they're reviewing for approval. And Congressman Tonko has been a big part of that. He introduced the bill last July, and then he reintroduced it again a couple of months ago to the new Congress. And we're just really excited about pushing that forward and getting it to the Senate, and then hopefully getting it approved before the end of the year. And we think that it will really have a big impact on the drug approval process.
That's wonderful. That's so, to me,
Yes.
inspiring and empowering.
Thank you.
And here you sounds like out of your comfort zone a little bit, but you just took
yeah.
that leap.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yep. It's totally out of our, I wish I had paid more attention in political science when I was a student here at Siena. But I'm learning
Never
as
too
I
late,
go.
right?
I'm learning as I go. So it's really interesting, and it's a really cool process to see how it works. And all the intricacies of it. It's really interesting.
That's
and like
wonderful.
I said, I really think it has a big impact on, not just for FCS. That was important for us. We were not looking for something that's just going to benefit our community. We see this as benefiting the rare disease community in general, and that's from having conversations with other people in other rare disease states.
That's wonderful. Well, best wishes. Keep us posted.
Thank you. Yes, if you want to support, I'll put a little plug here if that's okay. If you want to support the Heart Act, no matter what state you're in, if you visit our website, livingwithfcs.org, we have a tab for the Heart Act, and you can just let your congressperson know why it's important to you. And you can use Juliana as a reason, and let them know that they should support the Heart Act and vote for it.
Wonderful. I was going to ask you how people could get involved.
Yes,
so it's a perfect segue.
that would be great, and we would appreciate that.
And if people want to get involved by participating in the 5K, that information will also be on your site.
That'll be on our website. We'll start working on that in the next couple of weeks. We'll have that information out there. Yeah.
Great. Terrific. We've got a few minutes left. Thank you so much for sharing your really incredible, inspirational story. But I do always like to swing back to some fun Siena facts.
Yeah. Okay.
So just a little bit of the rapid fire, I guess, if we will.
Okay.
When you can get together with your Siena friends, what do you like to do?
I just sit around and reminisce and laugh and have a good time. I actually saw a couple of friends yesterday. They were up visiting, and that's pretty. It's like we just pick up where we left off, and now we have our kids are together, and it's so fun to watch the next generation of them hang out and enjoy each other's company. So, just sit around and laugh, because that's pretty much what we do.
That's great. This might be a hard one, but favorite Siena memory?
That is a hard one.
Or one of
One
your favorite Siena memories.
So I worked at the information desk. I was actually one of the first employees who worked at the information desk, because the Saracen Student Union had just first opened my freshman year when I started here. So I think working there, and then there was always sort of an interesting crowd of people hanging out in the leadership lounge, and just seeing who was hanging out and spending time in there was always, you just never knew who was going to be there. You never knew what you were going to talk about. It was just always something fun.
Nice. Favorite food and saga?
Gosh, probably the soft serve ice cream machine. If I had,
I don't think we even have that now. I wish we did. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, Melissa, it's been so wonderful having you with us on Saints and Alumni Show today and sharing your story. I mean, I feel honored in my role as the alumni director to meet so many wonderful people, and it just makes me proud too. Another great Siena Saint, just out there really making a difference in the world. So thank you for being here.
And thank you so much for having me. I as I say, I bleed green and gold. I'm so proud to be a Siena alumni. I think, you meet me and about 5 minutes later, you'll know that I'm a Siena alum, because I'm so proud to share where I went to school and the community that I got to spend my time with. It definitely had an impact on how I have lived my life for the last 15 years. And there's a little bit of Siena College in everything I do. So I appreciate being here. That's
terrific. And one more time, share the website for those who might want to visit.
Sure. It is www.livingwithfcs.org. And there is information on there about the Heart Act, as well as ways to donate, and just to check out what we're doing and different resources.
Thank you again, Melissa, for being here.
Thank you.
And thank you for listening. Join us next week for another edition of Saints and Alumni here on 88.3 WVCR, The Saint.